So, all right, so let's get started. How are
Yeah.
you?
I'm well. How are you? I'm so
I'm
excited to be here.
really good. I had some challenges this morning, but as happens, and I was running a little bit late too, which is why I didn't get to the challenge until the time that you messaged dropping off children. And anyway, that's parenting life for you, isn't it? The kid wrangling side of it, just all part of the juggle and the balance. um, Cool. So yeah, I'm really loving these real conversations I'm having with separated parents and just various people that have, something to offer parents, and particularly separated parents, just in terms of their, their deepening, their understanding, their sort of moving through the experience of being a separated parent. And I know that you yourself, you sort of sit on both sides, because you yourself are a separated parent, right?
Yeah, I am separate. I got divorced 7 years ago.
Okay, so I'd love to, whatever you feel comfortable to share. I really love to, hear a little bit about your experience of separation, and just, I guess, just in terms of, I don't know, the biggest things that you struggled with, and just very generally, and how you overcame them. Maybe we'll start there and just see.
Yeah, so for me, because my daughter, she's 10 now, so it was very early on. She was very little when I already knew that it's not working out in the relationship and the marriage.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy because for me, just being on my own, and I live in America, I'm originally from Germany, that in itself was like, I couldn't even imagine how I can, get by myself. That in itself was scary for me.
Yeah, because your family's in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And the cost of living is quite high here compared to like when I was growing up in Germany. And so one of the biggest things for me was that it was challenging even to make this step, because you grow up with this idea, well, you want to have a happy family for the children, and that's what you want your kids to grow up with. But I knew in my heart that it's not working, it's not meant to be, and for everybody involved. And I knew that if I'm not happy, my daughter will eventually feel it, and it will really like rub off on her in not a good way, I think, because so it was a tough decision, to be honest, because it's like, okay, my child is going to grow up with her parents divorced from the very early on, right? And is that what I wanted? Is that what I had imagined? Absolutely not, right?
Yeah, so many parents struggle with that. So, with the how long did you go through that process of knowing that it was like, what was the time frame between knowing that it was the wrong thing and then actually, leaving or separating?
Well, it was like, it took probably a couple of years to finally, like, until it was finalized and everything. So it was pretty early on, but it wasn't something, oh, you're just going to do like that, right?
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a process, and a lot of stuff came up for me. It was the hardest time of my life, to be honest, in that whole. On top of it, my daughter also had some medical challenges after that she was born. She had so actually I don't want to go about that into detail, but she's fine now. But it was a very scary time for her father as well. For everybody involved. So that was kind of on top of it, while there was already like, relationship is not going and something fell off, and then that kind of contributed to it even further. So anyways, in the end, I knew in my heart that this is not where I can stay. And then, like I said, it took some time to finally, eventually I had my own place and I got my own job, and it was kind of like a transition kind of phase, which was scary, I have to be honest. I felt lost, and then especially those moments where, you had those moments where, okay, you meet somewhere and then your daughter is with her dad, or with both of the parents for a little bit, like, and then she's leaving with her dad and I'm going home by myself, and she was crying ballistically. Those moments are not fun. That's just not you know, because you feel like you're harming a child in a way, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's like, no, I'm not going to your dad's house, and vice versa. I'm going to our house, right? So, but I felt with her, she actually then really quickly, and maybe it was because it was early on, she learned from early on. It's like, you know, she had a rhythm, like those days she's with dad, those days she's with mom. And luckily her father and I, we were able to co-parent pretty well and amicably.
That's
Which,
yeah.
yeah, so that was pretty, I really have to say that went pretty well. And I always like had the intentions, like, you know, look, we can have our discrepancies, we can disagree on things, but for the sake of our daughter, let's be friendly with each other, right? Because that's, I think, the worst we can do as adults, to, you know, keep fighting in front of the kids, and, you know, like carry on with our trauma with each other, and, you know, involve the children too much. So yeah, so that's definitely wasn't easy, but even though it was hard, especially like financially being on your own, and that whole thing, that was a scary thing for me, I have to say. But it always worked out, and then my job got a little bit higher pay, and, you know, so things started to evolve. And then I started to notice over time, I started to really connect with my purpose, like, what do I really want to do? and
Yes.
then I realized, well, I don't want to work for a company and all these kind of things. And I had a new relationship at some point where I felt really supported with, you know, going for my own things. And so it was a whole new experience for me. And so in the end, in hindsight, it was the best thing ever for me personally, you know, as much as other people may not like to hear that.
Yes.
But I would not have lived the life that I want to live being in a relationship where you feel like it's somehow misaligned.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, it's so interesting. You just you know, touched on all the things that is so common to the experience of separated parents, you know, like you worry about how it's going to affect your children and how it is in the moment. And then you know, money is a really big one. And
yeah.
You know, and starting a new relationship, you know, a lot of people dive into that very quickly, and there's, you know, lots of reasons for that too, but you know, depending on what's going on for you. But wow, so how were you able, like specifically with your darling girl, like how were you able to overcome some of the challenges there to help her to move through?
So I really have to say that she really handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
Like the transitions, like it wasn't a big deal. Like I said, there were sometimes those moments where, you know, like those, she had to cry, and she didn't want to be somewhere. And I think, I mean, they, when they're little, they want to sometimes be more with mom in a way, you know. So so sometimes I felt like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And that was those moments where it was really rough. But I had to always, like, I always reminded myself, even though it was rough and she left and she was crying, I just took a deep breath and like, hey, I know I'm being a better mom overall, like, you know, doing what I feel is right in my heart and being happy for her. And even though it's not easy in the moment, you know, you got to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then whenever something came up, like, listen to her, talk to her, you know,
Yes.
just be there for her, and let her talk about it, that it sucks for her, and like be understanding, like, no, I understand, it sucks, your parents are not together, and, you know, and I honor and I acknowledge how you feel. You have a point to feel this way, right?
Yeah.
And
that's
but
right.
I have noticed I have noticed with her that she has become more aware of it as she has gotten older. Now she's like 10. So the last few years, it's more of a, why are my parents not together? And she wants to fight it and kind of force it, or like, it's quite interesting. So I find it actually more challenging now, 7 years later, than what it was when she was very little.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had the same experience with my two children because they were like babies when I when I separated. And yes, back then it was a lot easier. Yeah, but absolutely, like it you know, it's beautiful that you're able to listen to her and acknowledge her feelings too, because often it's very hard to do that. Like when you're struggling yourself and you're going through your own you know, stress and trauma, and you know, it's everything's coming up for you because, you know, as you know, in relationship everything comes up for you in any relationship, you know, especially an intimate relationship. And then when it all falls apart, it all really comes up then and starts to, you know, become quite chaotic and challenging. So yeah, it wonderful that you're able to you know, really be there for her too, because I found with my children that there were times when I was able to and times when I just wasn't. And you know, it's you know, yeah, I guess that everyone's situation's different, and I guess it's something to lean into, to you know, to look after yourself, take care of yourself, and also be there for your children. And it comes as a natural instinct, I think, sometimes too, just to take care of your children. Yeah, make sure they're okay through the whole thing. Yeah. So talk to me about all the things that you did to sort of help yourself to move through some of these challenges, you know, with you know, relationships and money and all the different things.
Yeah, so I mean, everything always that's a challenge in life is an opportunity for growth, right? So I have always, like, because I got into coaching like
Yeah.
5 or 6 almost years ago, and so I have really learned that everything that happens in your life is a reflection of what's going inside of me, right? So including the challenges with my daughter, like she probably triggers me the most of all people still, you know, it's like because I see myself in her so much and the things that I'm still like, so it's actually like she brings awareness about all these things. Also with money, like how she talks about money or behaves like this. I learned so much from her.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I have learned, I mean, one of the biggest things also that was a blessing for me, I have learned to have become such a strong woman through this whole process because it wasn't easy. And
Yeah.
I saw myself back then, I was kind of like this nice little girl. And now I feel the strong, confident woman. So something definitely happened in this phase, you know?
Yeah, and more
And
authentically who you are. Yeah.
oh yeah, the whole authenticity in particular. Like I used to be nice to everybody, please everybody, and da 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 da. And I mean, one of the things leaving a marriage was kind of like it was my first time speaking up and like, okay, it was scary as heck, you know.
Yeah.
And so I have started to keep practicing, like, okay, speak my truth, speak up for what I want. It's not always gonna be what everybody else likes, absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
You know, so I have really learned to stop people pleasing and speaking my own truth. And I think I've taught my daughter the same. Like she's very strong-willed and she, you know, she says what she wants.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely an amazing growth opportunity. And where I'm at today, like, so just kind of like, and this is all, you know, it's now, it's actually like a 7 year kind of, or 8 years that I'm looking back now. Back then I felt lost.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Like I screwed up, you know,
Yeah.
like here I have a 1-2 year old baby and I'm like not even capable of doing it right. And, you know, first time mom, like we don't know.
Yes.
And I was in a job that was kind of like, for my education, where I came from, the goals that I had growing up was kind of like, what am I doing here? But I was also grateful because it was such a difficult time for me. And even like being at work just helped me not focus on my personal issues or problems at the time, like going through divorce and navigating having your own place and being dependent on your own, all these kind of things. But now for fast forward, I now have my own business. I do what I love, freaking love.
Yes.
You know, like I feel like I'm really living my purpose. I'm in another relationship where I really feel so grounded and safe and like, and I'm really like what I feel for my partner is what I was always looking for, and I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
You know, and so I feel really blessed and grateful for that, and especially the respect we have for each other and how we support each other. Like, you know, it's about like he supports me with my own journey, even though it's not like being an entrepreneur is not always easy. Not especially in the beginning, it was really rocky and rough, and I got out of corporate, so I didn't know the heck what I was doing. But you know, we learn, and I support him with his things. He went through a career change and all this kind of things. So it's just quite amazing how much, I mean, I have grown. And like, if you would have told me that 7 years ago, I was like, that's not me. You know?
Whereas it's actually more me, more you.
Yeah.
Than you were back then, you know, trying to be the right thing for everybody else and trying to please everyone else and make everything okay and stay safe, and you know, but to really step into that power and really be who you are in all those different aspects of your life. It's really beautiful, and you're so lit up and so glowing. And when you talk about the work that you do, you know, you just light up, Analena. I love that. And I'd love to hear about it too, if you would be willing to talk about that and sort of the impact of that on your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I started out as a health coach. I was a coach, and then eventually I did the inner healing work, the lots of releasing emotions and things like that. And then eventually this beautiful thing, I call it the thing in a way, called human design.
Yes.
Like, oh my God. Where has it been all my life? This is like too good to be true. And no, seriously, I'm obsessed and passionate about human design, and it's really my mission to get this out into the world. And it's actually, we were talking also about kids here, it's actually meant for the children. So human design is this, I like to say it's like a personality kind of assessment tool, but not really. What I love about it, you don't have to fill out any kind of questions, because depending on your mood, you may answer them differently anyways, and I don't have patience and time for that. It's like based on basically the exact time, the day and the place that you were born, and then it spits out this like human design body graph, which is like your energetic blueprint, who you are as a person, what's normal for you. It tells a lot about your personality, if you're more introvert, extrovert, or how you attract opportunities in your life, and like lots of things. And it also gives you, well, it's not giving it to you, it's just like making you remember how to make decisions.
Uncovering again.
Like, because I always consider myself the most undecisive person. I don't know what I want. I don't know, how do I make the right decision? How do I know? I question myself so much. And with human design, it gave me this reconfirmation to finally trust myself. And I mean, that's big for anybody, right? Like, because when you trust yourself, your world becomes magical all around, seriously. And so, and then I learned like how we are unique and different, because I don't know about you, but I was always trying to fit in and like be like everybody else. And I was trying to, especially being an entrepreneur, being a coach, you know, I signed up for so many programs where somebody was like, sign up for this program, it's going to be successful because it has worked for me, and I'm going to show you how I did it. And
I did a billion programs.
And it worked for me, but and then I mean, now I know in hindsight, this can work for this person beautifully, but I'm a totally different breed. I'm a totally different person. And what works for you may not work for me at all. And for the majority of people, like there may be a few people that it really works, you know. So I got really frustrated along this journey first, because like before I knew human design, right? Because I I was looking on the outside for the answer, or for how to be especially like successful, having your own business and
come and
in
fix
life and with relationships.
it.
Yeah.
That's what it
And
is,
human
right?
design
It's
gave
like,
me,
come and fix me, come and fix what's happening here. This is not right.
yeah,
Is that how, is
yeah,
that your experience?
yeah. And then with human design, it was like, there's nothing to fix.
Uh-huh.
You're perfect as you are. You just gotta accept it and start trusting yourself. I mean, that's kind of the short version.
Yes, that's exactly my experience
And
too, because I discovered human design more recently, but through you, and I absolutely had the same experience too. It's like the self-acceptance and the it's very affirming. It's actually, and there's a lot of nothing that's surprising, but necessarily, although there's a few bits and pieces where you think, wow, I was living so much in the shadow, like so much not myself, that I never realized, wow, there's been a lot of that for me. But just that ability to accept yourself and your own uniqueness, and actually we're all supposed to be different, we're here to be different. I always felt very like the black sheep of the family, and the just very different in
but
any circle that I
you
was
know
in.
what I really realized, because I also said, oh, I'm the black sheep of the family, but I have 3 sisters, and I talked to all of them, and they also felt that way. I think we all secretly feel like the black sheep, because we're different.
I should talk to my siblings.
What if we actually are meant to be different? I think that the worst case scenario for humanity is we're all the same. I mean, we have like a robot kind of way of living, which is like, everybody's the same. If everybody's doing the same job, like the
robots,
beauty,
all these disembodied heads walking around everywhere, not really experiencing everything anyway. And that, I mean, my journey is similar in that I discovered, okay, came through sort of life coaching, and then started to really get down into the body. And it's when I really discovered, working with the body, both energetically and in terms of the sensations and things that happen as a result of the things that we experience in our lives. That's when things started to change for me. And then I found that discovering human design was like the system that made all of that make sense. And it just, everything just calmed down. It's like, oh, this is me, and it's okay. This is cool. Okay, it's just complete self-acceptance, and really helped me on that self-love journey too.
Yeah, because I think that's when we are all really on this journey of loving ourselves. And for me, human design is a shortcut, because it takes out the guesswork, it takes out the wondering. I mean, it takes out this notion like, what's there about to fix about me, right? And it really helps you understand that the most things that you think they are to fix, they're actually not to fix at all. That's who you are, and you're meant to be.
Yes.
And so it's this, I always like to say, like, it's a ticket to be you.
Yes.
You're going you can be yourself. Just stop trying to be who you're not.
Yes, because we're actually both the same human design energetic type manifesting generators, right? But we're both very different, because we have this other aspects within our charts that are that are so different. But the thing that really struck me first, or that made me go, oh, it was the you telling me when we first spoke about it, actually, you're supposed to be multi-passionate. You're supposed to do lots of different things. You don't have to focus on one thing. Because I'd always been told by my very strict and, somewhat controlling father that, Gretel, you got to stop trying to do all this stuff. Like, this is fluff, okay? Just focus on one thing and get really good at it. Just do that thing, okay? And so I've always found that really hard, and it was a real struggle. And when I was so drawn to so many different things, I really struggled, because I could hear his voice in the back of my head. So I think that was a real moment of, actually, it's me to go out and want to do lots of different things, that actually have the energy to do so, to take all these things on and just get all these things done, and do things that other people don't have the energy for necessarily.
Yeah, it's this, I always like to say, it gives you this sense of relief, like, and you can relax your body, and like, No, I get to do all these things because I always knew I need that actually.
Yeah.
Because that lights me up, that actually energizes me. And just because somebody else says I can only do one thing doesn't mean that's how
Yeah.
it is, right?
Yes, that's right. And it's really helped my family relationships too, because, you know, as a talking about the you know, struggles that we have and children have, you know, obviously with relationships going through a separation, because it's a separation of a relationship, so quite a significant one. And understanding human design and going through the healing work myself, you know, naturally sort of meant that I was different with my children as I healed. And then understanding human design and understanding their human designs was has absolutely changed everything in terms of the relationships that we have, and has improved everything and continues to as we get deeper and deeper into the understanding of it. You know, we're all very different types. I mean, I already knew that because we're just very different, but now I can understand why. And, you know, and also approach parenting in a completely different way. And my children feel more heard and more supported, and you know, able to start that healing process themselves naturally, just through my understanding. They don't care about necessarily understanding their human design. They're not ready for it yet. That's fine. But as a parent, having that understanding is I found is absolutely powerful.
Yeah, it's like, let's talk about the manifesting generator. Like, my daughter is a manager as well, and like, if I wouldn't know, like, I would try probably to calm her down and not do other things, because she can be like all over the place. She loves color, and then she makes this like, and she loves to be creative, and she always says like, I have to experiment. And she's a 4/6 like you, so she's going through this 3-line phase, which is all about the 6-line, just to mention, in the first 30 years of life, is like a 3-line, which is all about experimenting and trying things out, and it can be really wild, and she needs to learn what works and what doesn't. And I cannot be so overly protective, where I'm, no, don't do this, don't make a mess. Like, no, let her make a mess and let her understand that, and she has to clean up, and if she does it, then her sheets are going to be messed up, and like, you know, like let them be. Because I think we as kids, because I mean, our parents didn't have this kind of tool. I mean, human design was discovered, was it 86, I think, or 1987, during the supernova. So it's like, when I was born, human design didn't even exist in a book, you know. So like, I feel like we are now as parents so privileged in a way that we have this knowledge, and now parents, even from the moment the kids are born, they like, they can already understand their children so much better. And I've done a lot of readings already where, you know, where I have talked to the parent and also about the kids and the dynamics, and it's life-changing. It's like relationships, like for me too, my partnership, it's game changer, because I have a completely open solar plexus, so I can amplify others' emotions. My partner has the biggest waves, both of them twice in his chart. If I wouldn't know that, I would take this personally. I would like, just understanding that is it can say, I mean, it's really like, you can turn a challenging relationship into the most beautiful thing. Because you understand that the person is not doing something against you. You may take things personal. You actually start to appreciate each other so much more. And because I think oftentimes in relationships, we try to fix the other person, or we want them to be different, right? And human design, I mean, being personally, has helped me so much to just like,
it just really helps you with that process of having compassion for yourself, and then having compassion for the other person. And that empathy and compassion is the absolutely crucial part to, you know, the beautiful development of any relationship, really, because, you know, in order to really connect with each other, we have to have that that vulnerability, that authentic, like, you know, not trying to, you know, achieve anything else with any other particular agenda, but just to actually have compassion for each other. And I think, yeah, human design and the fact that you can see how you are and how the other person is, you can have a lot more acceptance for that, which really, really helps to make a difference. Yeah, I mean, I will in this video tag a few summary videos about the different parts of basics of human design for anyone's interested, just so you know, because it is a fascinating tool if it's something you'd like to dive into. Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing about my my son. Actually, it's been completely life-changing for him for me to discover his human design. He's actually a manifester, which is one of the 5 human design types. And it had always been suggested to me in, the education system that he might be ADHD or something like that. Maybe I should get him tested. And I never did, so I wasn't really into labels. And this is not to say that getting tested for ADHD isn't a good thing, because it can be. Like, you've got to feel into what the right thing for you and your family is. And for some people it really is a neurological condition that needs to be investigated by the medical profession and psychologists. But in his case, discovering that he's a manifester just made all the difference. He's just all of energy and he cannot sit still.
The manifester and the manifesting generator, both of the types, because the manifesting generator has the manifester. It's like we have this internal spark that comes through us to do something, and we got to do it.
Yes.
And it's the same with my daughter. Many people would think she has ADHD, and she has by a professional she has said, like, no, I don't see ADHD in her. So that's good to hear, because again, we don't want to like, oh no, don't get it tested and but that's actually a huge topic, this whole ADHD thing. And I always say, always go to a professional. This is not medical advice in any way or form. This is just a different perspective that you may want to look into to kind of see the picture holistically. And but I do know personally, like, gazillion of people that thought they had ADHD or something like that, and then they just learned about human design and they were like, oh, okay.
That's why I'm like that. Yeah, exactly. I've discovered that recently with a lot of different things. But yeah, fascinating. That's a topic for a whole nother video, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that's probably topic for a TED Talk.
Yes, definitely. Well, yeah, so I've loved our conversation today. We probably should wrap it up at some point. I'm sure we could talk all day about human design. As soon as we started talking about human design, the conversation flows. I mean, both of us do, human design readings. So for anyone that's interested in, looking into it further and finding out what your human design is, I'll put the details down below for you to connect and find out how to do that. So it's an absolutely fascinating thing. And as a separated parent, I've found it as a tool. It has an incredible system just to be absolutely fantastic and quite life-changing for my family. So thanks, Analena. I really appreciate your time today and for having this conversation with me. It's been fun.
Yes, you're so welcome. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for